We are live at Mar-a-Lago, about to be joined by former Nevada Attorney General Adam Laxalt, who is one of the top candidates to help Republicans flip back the Senate. We'll talk with him in just a moment. Want to give you a little bit of a detail here. Joe Biden, addressing the nation, said that, I'm reading, quote, Putin is, quote, setting up a rationale to take more territory by force to go much further. This is the beginning of a Russian invasion of Ukraine. So we certainly will be talking more and more about the situation in Ukraine this day, next day, maybe days into the future. But we bring in now, live here at Mar-a-Lago, Trump-endorsed candidate in the great state of Nevada, Adam Laxalt. What are you seeing? First of all, thanks for joining us here at Mar-a-Lago. Not a bad place to be, although there's a lot of pretty impressive places in your state as well. These incredible edifices, certainly in Las Vegas and beyond. What are you hearing from people on the ground as you get enmeshed in your Senate campaign? And for people out there who may not live in your state, what is the larger Senate picture, and why does your race matter so much when it comes to Republicans taking back control of the Senate?
Sure. Let me just say that first, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, good to meet you.
This is a great venue and pretty cool to do a show here. I've just never seen anything like it. The average voter in all corners of my state, and we're a very big state for your listeners, where you could drive 300-400 miles in between counties. There's such an acute sense of anger, fear, concern. People really think that the America that we all love, the America that has made us, the values that have made us the greatest nation on earth, that they're on the ropes. And, it's funny, I do a lot of interviews, and especially if it's anything in the kind of mainstream, they always think that these are talking points, and you can tell they glaze over when I say something like this, and I want to say, leave your bubble and come out to a state like Nevada and speak to real voters, because they feel like that everything is going wrong. Everything. There are no bright spots right now.
To that point, I mean, people are often motivated, whether they're writing restaurant reviews or they're voting. It's generally what upsets them that motivates them, right? What's gone wrong? You're talking about that. For people in the state of Nevada, what are the top 2 or 3 things that have them particularly fired up and that you think could lead to a strong outcome for Republicans going into this midterm?
Well, I'll start with COVID because that's extra topical. Last week, there was no sign, no rumors, no hinting that we were going to get masks lifted. And you guys probably following this. All of a sudden, a bunch of blue state governors are lifting masks. And out of nowhere, there's a press conference announced, and the very next morning, they're all lifted. And as we pointed out, we went after the governor, we went after Senator Masto, who just dutifully clapped and supported the decision, that the infection rate was actually higher that day than when he put masks in August. And so every single, their map, their tracker, every single county in Nevada was still red. Now, I didn't think we should have mask mandates in the first place. Obviously, I applaud the decision, but it just showed what a joke all this was, and there was no science. And in fact, someone from his task force, who's an epidemiologist, was caught unsuspected by a reporter and said, where did the science come from? And he said, we weren't consulted. And so it just tells you everything you need to know. You mentioned that amazing video of those young kids in Las Vegas that went viral. And as I like to say, that's the natural state, right? No one wanted to be in masks. These kids never needed to be in masks. And meanwhile, we had this big protest at one of our main universities of college kids.
We played the audio.
That were complaining that we should put masks back on. And, it's just, you want to laugh, but it's just so sad and pathetic that they would want to protest for less freedom and for the government to regulate them more. It's like, hey, guys, you can wear masks till the day you die if that's what you want to do. But to have it as a mandate is not the way we should go.
We talked about this because I landed in Las Vegas on an evening around 9 o'clock, and the mask mandate went into place at midnight. So I went to the hotel with my wife. We were there for a couple's birthday party, and we were able to not wear masks all throughout the casino from 9 to midnight. At midnight, It was like Cinderella's, carriage flipping back into a pumpkin. Somebody snapped their fingers and started walking around saying, you have to put a mask on now. So you could be in the casino all day. You could be hanging out, playing whatever you wanted to do, having an incredible time. And then at midnight, we were on the casino floor when they walked around and they started making that switch. And the amount of people who were just looking around, this is not scientific. This is completely absurd. I'm glad that they've made that switch. But one of the things about Vegas, why people want to go there, is to have freedom and experience maybe things that they can't do in their hometown or their home state. And so the idea of this nanny state existing, even in your state of Nevada, was driving people bonkers. And it's great that it's changed. But to your point, there was no method or metric by which they made this choice.
Well, and we're in the state of Florida, which is also a tourism state, and this was proof positive that this could have been done a different way.
Yes.
And our state chose the opposite. We've been lockdowns, we've been masks, and it's killed our economy. Right now we have the highest unemployment in America. We have one of the largest small business losses in America. And so it had real, serious, lasting economic consequences, all unnecessary. We have increased drug overdose. We have increased domestic violence. I mean, all the things that people like me, and I'm sure people like you, were warning a year ago. There is another side of the coin to lockdowns, and we were all ignored or all told that that shouldn't go in the equation. Here in Florida, the governor put those in the equation and said quite clearly there's another way to do it. And so the good news, I think, is that people have awoken to just how terrible our leaders have been. I think a reckoning is coming. It's not just the economy. I mean, the schools were devastated the last few years. Parents are outraged by the masks and the remote learning. And so we have problems across the board. And I think that people are absolutely ready for change.
We're speaking to Adam Laxalt. He's running for Senate in Nevada. And to that end, wanted to ask you, Clay and I are already day in and day out pounding the drum over we need a massive victory, a massive red wave in these midterm elections to send a message and to restore freedom. Yes, also just normal life. This is one of the things that I think got people so fired up on behalf of the truckers up in Canada, this notion that we can go on almost endlessly without being able to live normal lives. So that's all in play, and it really does matter a lot. What should people know about your Senate race, your Democrat opponent, and how you see, you're somebody who's watching this, I'm sure, very closely, the GOP chances generally in the Senate going into this critical midterm election?
Yeah, first and foremost, are we going to experience a red wave in this country? I think absolutely. People are ready for change. They're tired of the Biden leadership that has failed at basically every single turn. But it's important for people to understand the Senate map is as small as can be. We must win Georgia and Nevada. We must win these two states. If we do not win these two states, we cannot win the Senate. And I won't go into all the states. You guys are going to do that for the next number of months. But take my word for it. Without these two states, we cannot take the majority in the U.S. Senate. Now, the good news is that Trump lost Nevada by only 2 points. That's with them changing our election system in 90 days out and giving us mail-in balloting, ballot harvesting, and all those things. And so it's a razor-thin state. My opponent, Catherine Cortez Masto, only won by 2 5 years ago, while Harry Reid was the sitting majority leader. Her patron saint drove everything to her, drove all the resources. And so this is an absolutely winnable state. And one thing President Trump did was he absolutely moved the Hispanic community to nearly 40% in Las Vegas. He clearly won big chunks of blue-collar workers in Las Vegas. And so, these America First policies that were trying to actually go after the American dream and give people a chance at a better life, they were working and they were effective. And people now know the stark contrast that all these things have gone to hell, frankly. And so we have, between that and what happened to schools and lockdowns, this combination of me being able to prosecute the case that a Biden administration and left-wing policies for America and Nevada, they fail. They fail at every turn. They fail at the border, which has increased crime and increased human trafficking and drug overdoses. They've failed, obviously, at the economy. They're failing right now with Ukraine and foreign policy. And so, this is my job, is just to go on offense every single day.
Where should folks go to learn more, especially our Nevada listeners, about your campaign, Adam?
AdamLaxalt.com.
Last question for you really quick. You've got a 6-week-old. You got 4 kids 8 and under. In addition to running for Senate, do you get any sleep at all? How's the 6-week-old doing?
Well, anybody that's had a newborn, the answer right now is categorically no. I am not getting any sleep. My wife is still bearing a lot of the brunt of the sleep deprivation, but no, I have not slept through the night in about 6 weeks. But that's okay. We're blessed, and this is. I know it sounds corny, but this is why I'm doing this. This is why we're all fighting for the future of our country. I have 4 children that if we do not turn America around, they will not be raised in the same America I was raised in. That's the stakes we are faced with, and that's what drives me every single day.
Adam
A lot of our
Laxalt, man.
listeners
Thank
saying
you.
the
Yeah.
exact same thing. I got 3 young kids. I feel the same way. We are joined now by one of the men who may help to flip the Senate. All over the country, there are battles that are going to be going on. We talked yesterday about the big race in Nevada. We bring in now Herschel Walker, who is going head-to-head with the Reverend Raphael Warnock in Georgia. And Herschel, I want to start right off the top. What's it feel like to be a national champion Georgia Bulldog again?
Well, that feels great because the Georgia Dogs went out and played. They played an incredible game. But let's give it to Alabama, too. Alabama has had a great run, and that's a great team as well. But it was Georgia year. It was the Braves year, and it's going to be the Herschel Walker year.
All right, so you're on the trail all the time, all over the state of Georgia. I saw you all over the state of Georgia during the fall with football going on, big events all over the place. What are you hearing from the people of Georgia on the ground, and what are they telling you?
Well, the people are upset, and they got every reason to be upset. When you have crime that is rising, the supply line is really terrible right now. You have the economy the way it is right now, and they got every reason to be upset, and you can't blame them. Right now, you can't blame them. There's people fighting over things, and that's one thing I've been saying for a long time. We got to bring adults in the room, get this country back on its feet, because this is a good place. The state of Georgia is a good place, but we cannot continue to have this separation. We got to have people that be able to communicate, and that's where you get things done.
Herschel, it's Buck. You mentioned the economy, where we are right now and where we should be. CBS News, one of the big legacy media outlets, in response to what's going on overseas, put out this just in the last 24 hours. The U.S. economy has been hit with increased gas prices, inflation, and supply chain issues due to the Ukraine crisis. I got to say, Herschel, that Ukraine crisis apparently stretches back for, the beginning of the Biden presidency. It's remarkable how that happens.
Well, it's so funny. That's why people like you two guys, they're doing a great job, because you give people an opportunity to tell the truth. Right now, for them to put out an article like that is a shame, when yet Ukraine had nothing to do with this inflation, had nothing to do with this economy. Those are bad policies on Biden's side, and I think people got to remember that. And for the Georgia people, they got to remember that right now that, my Senator Warnock had voted right along with Biden almost 95% of the time. Right now, he's doing all these great commercials showing how he's caring for the people, but he's only caring for them because it's election year. He's not going to do anything for them, and that's why I want people to realize that. And we got to get back to great marketing on the right, because the left can do some incredible marketing. Right now, they're blaming Ukraine for this inflation. It's got nothing to do with this economy, nothing to do with this inflation. Sooner or later, going to be saying that Ukraine is the fault for kids not going to school here in Georgia. Right now they cannot continue to say things like that and misleading the people. And that's the reason I wanted to run. I want people to know the truth. And really, because there's good people and they can decide for themselves.
Herschel, you've got also, obviously, you're running for the Senate against Warnock, as you just mentioned. There's a battle right now for who is going to be the Republican governor candidate, whether it's going to be Brian Kemp or David Perdue. What are you trying to do as those guys battle in the primary to see who the Republican representative is going to be? Do you have a preference? How are you handling that?
Well, I'm worried about my race, and I told people I'm upset because we got some strong candidates running. Right now, we got to bring people together. We can't not continue to go out there and fight among each other when we got this country that is hurting. You got kids on the street that is dying. Your kids are not in school. We got all these problems going on, but we got these inner squad fighting. Right now, I told someone, I said, when you're on a team, I don't care if the receiver score a touchdown. We all win the game. Right now, that's the reason I think we got 2 Democratic senators in Georgia right now, because we had these people fighting among each other. And I said, I want to bring people together. We got to come together, win for the people, not for ourselves, but win for the people, get this country back to going, because there's good people here, and the way we can get it done is by doing it together.
Who's the better golfer, Herschel? I know you've got a big event going on with Trump down at Mar-a-Lago. We were just there yesterday with 45, former president. I believe you've got a big fundraiser. You're working with Donald Trump down at Mar-a-Lago. Who's going to have the better golf outing?
Well, I do. Come March 2nd, and I ask everyone out there listening to go to my website on teamherschel.com and enter, and you can come down and play golf, or you can just have a Coke with me and stuff. You just have to enter and come down and play, and you say, who's the better golfer? And I'm going to say, I can play. And if you just hear me say, I can play, and he plays a lot. Well, I'm out on the campaign. He's playing golf, so that's a little bit different. I'm working while he's playing golf.
Herschel, you're a guy who's used to winning some very, very big games, used to winning in general. If you are able to become a senator from the great state of Georgia, what does a winning record look like in your mind? What are you going to try to accomplish?
One thing I want to try to accomplish is the very first thing, let's bring some integrity back into our elected officials. I think that's one of the first things. And we gotta bring this party together, get some people to start trusting our elected officials again, because one of the things, it's not about us. It should be about the customers. I learned that in my business. The customer comes first. Right now, we're working for the people. You're not working for yourself, and that's the first thing I want to do. And then we got to get a lot of other things under control. Right now, things are going well right now because of some of the terrible policies that are happening within a year. That's what people don't realize. This is they've only been in office for a year, and you see what's going on in this country, and we can't have that. We cannot have what's happening right now. So right now, I like to bring some integrity back where people can trust in our elected officials.
Herschel, we appreciate the time, my man. I know that it is a hectic campaign season. Look forward to seeing you down there in Georgia. I'm going to come down for some Braves games if they can actually get the baseball season started back up again. I know you got a headquarters not far from Battery Park there in Atlanta, so I look forward to seeing you down there.
Well, thank you so much, and let everyone go to teamherschel.com. We're in this fight. I'm going to be in it to the end. I'm going to win it. As I told them all the time, I'm Ricky Bobby right now. So I'm in this race here to win.
Herschel, thanks so much for being with us, man. We hope you're going to come out on top. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, now, and God bless you guys.
Clay, now that we just had Herschel on, I can ask you what's the special rallying cry for the Georgia team? Because I didn't want to say the wrong. All I know, you've taught me Roll Tide so far.
They do. Well, they've got a lot of great things. First of all, the barking, right? The dog barking for the Georgia Bulldogs. Grown men spend a lot of time barking, and so
okay.
It is maybe unexpected to see a grown man barking as if he is a Georgia Bulldog. But it's been since 1980. Herschel Walker won a national championship with Georgia 42 years ago. And they finally have vanquished that demon and have won another title a couple of generations later. And like he said, the Braves won a championship, and I think Herschel's going to flip the Senate back in the state of Georgia to Republican Party hands.
We've had in the last 24 hours Adam Laxalt running out in Nevada and Herschel Walker running in Georgia. If you look at the Senate map, if we want control, look, I think the House, I don't want to jinx anything, the House looking good for Republicans. But it has to look amazing when the results are in, or else Clay and I are going to be upset. We're going to give ourselves a timeout because we haven't done enough. It has to be an absolute shellacking. But the Senate's going to be tight, folks. It usually is tight, right? We're talking about a handful of races, a handful of seats. Nevada and Georgia and Herschel Walker.
Those are the two that we have the best chance right now because we have some contested primaries. But to flip, because those are Democratic seats, Nevada, like yesterday we talked about with Adam Laxalt, and with Herschel Walker in Georgia.
We're now joined by the newly taking the governor's mansion governor, of course, Glenn Youngkin of Virginia. He is just beginning and doing some great stuff in Virginia. Governor, thanks for being with us.
Well, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me back. Last time I was still candidate, and it's just awesome to speak with you as governor.
I'm just going to tell you, I'm not going to say it's a coincidence, but you come on the Clay and Buck show, good things happen, Governor, so we're happy to have you. Thank you so much. You're doing some big things right out of the gate, mask mandates in schools, top of what we've been talking about here on the show, watching from outside of your state. Tell us first about how that fight is going to allow parents the right to free their children's faces from the cloth.
Well, it's I think we've put things to bed here with bipartisan legislation that was signed into law last week, giving parents the right to make a decision about whether their children wear a mask or not. And we've been talking about this for a year. And the fact that parents absolutely have a fundamental right to make these decisions. And if school boards have mandates, parents have to be able to opt out. That's what the legislation says. And I believe that if parents want to have their child wear a mask, then they should be allowed to do so. But also, if parents don't want their child to wear a mask because it's in their best interest not to do so, they should be able to make that decision too. This is about liberty and freedom. And I think this is why we won last November, is Virginians, not just Republicans, but independents and Democrats, really felt strongly that it was time for us to get back to some of our core fundamental beliefs and the rights of the people and liberty and freedom. And we've gotten started really with a bang here. I've been very excited about getting taxes down and standing up for parents' rights and reestablishing expectations of excellence in schools as opposed to watered down expectations, and getting law enforcement funded and standing up for our community's safety. And, oh, by the way, let's go create some jobs and recognize that the more jobs they are, the more opportunity there is. And we got to get regulations down and jobs up. And so it's been a busy first 5 weeks, but boy, we're having a great time.
Congratulations on the win, Governor Youngkin, and you have done a heck of a job. And I know many of our listeners out there have been very proud to see you follow through on many of the things you said you would do, which is sometimes rare in politics. I want to ask you big picture. We got next week the State of the Union address. It's not very far to the midterms. You were a little bit ahead 1 year with the election in Virginia of where the nation might be headed. What do you say to everybody out there who looks at your success in Virginia and wonders how much of it was unique to your Commonwealth there and how much of it was part of the larger atmosphere that exists in this country right now? What would you say to other people getting ready to run coming up on 2022 that you learned based on your campaign?
Virginia is very much a microcosm of the nation. I mean, we have, yes, a lot of Republicans, but a lot of Democrats, but we have a ton of independents. And I think so many of the emotions and, oh, by the way, policies that people felt so strongly about this past year in Virginia absolutely are emotions and policies that the nation is focused on right now. And it has everything to do with individual liberty and rights. And let's just start with education. And historically, I think that Republicans might not have been the party to look to for education. When you get right down to it, we are. We stand for choice. We stand for parents' rights. We want excellence. We want kids to be taught how to think, not what to think. You know, one of the things we're working on in Virginia is a lab school initiative so that we can partner with universities and colleges and do it within the public school system so parents can choose to send their children to an alternative school called a lab school that has a different curriculum that can prepare their child for college or for a career. But I'm also very, very aware of the fact that public safety is a huge issue across the nation. Crime rates have been soaring. And last year we ran on a deep focus on making our communities safe again, funding law enforcement, equipment, training, salaries, getting more law enforcement on the streets so that, in fact, we can keep our communities safe, but also recognizing we've got to rebuild relationships. And that's why we've been pushing so hard on some special programs to help rebuild relationships. And finally, at the end of the day, all Virginians, and I think Americans, are recognizing that taxes at the state level in Virginia are too high. Its inflation is running away, just rampant. And what governors can do is get taxes down. Prices are up. That's just policy mistakes in Washington, but we are able to do everything at the governor's level that we possibly can around taxes. And that's why we're so focused on getting taxes down. So the basics of getting the cost of living down, improving education, making our communities safe, and creating more jobs. And then finally, we have been so focused on making government work for us and not telling us what to do all the time, having a government that's best in class, getting the backlog of unemployment claims down, making our DMV work, having government that's responsive to its bosses. So I think these are really, really universal issues across the nation. And I think that Republicans will do really well this year if we keep listening to our customers and delivering for them.
We're speaking to Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia. And, Governor, you've come out of the gates doing things that, as Clay pointed out, you promised to do, so you're already taking those actions. How do you think in your state, just as to get a sense of, you just won, congratulations, so you're just starting your term as governor, but there's obviously going to be a very contentious midterm election coming up. How do you think, based on what you know of Virginia's politics as a purple and previously, until this most recent election, trending blue state, things are looking in Virginia for the Republican Party? Because that might be an indicator of how it will go in other contested areas of the country.
Yeah, I believe that voters in Virginia expressed a strong view that individual liberties, low taxes, better education, safe communities are top of mind. And I think that Virginia's voters reflect America. And I think that Republicans staying focused on these issues will do incredibly well this year. Incredibly well. States led by Republicans have just done so much better. We've done better economically. We've done better in job creation. We've done better in education metrics. We've done better managing through COVID. I mean, this is a moment where the leadership of Republicans has been strong. And what we've seen, of course, is unfortunately weak leadership out of Washington in a time when we need strong leadership, at a time where we see geopolitical issues really on the forefront. And they're on the forefront because we've had weak leadership. And I think that Americans are ready for that basic principled leadership of small government, of a strong national defense, low taxes, empowering people, and recognizing that this is a moment to actually lean forward and not step back. We can do incredibly well this November.
Governor, you're across the Potomac River from a guy who has a lot lower approval ratings right now than you do in Joe Biden. He's got the State of the Union coming up. He probably won't listen to you because he's making all the bad decisions, but you're close. What would you tell him, olive branch, he should have in the State of the Union based on what you are hearing and seeing in your state? What do people want?
Well, I think it's time to recognize that the state of emergency that is existing in COVID
Amen.
is a time to end. It's
Yes.
a time to end. And we can get back to normal. And this is what we're seeing in Virginia, is when we give people the ability to make decisions over their own lives and they can see a path back to normal, so many of the things that have worked against economic recovery, against basic happiness, we can recover from. I mean, let's be serious. We've got a crisis of behavioral and mental health in this nation and in Virginia. And so much of it is because we have seen lockdowns extended longer than they ever should be. And we've seen mandatory mask policies with hesitancy to remove them. Listen, the science and the medicine is telling us, and from so many experts, that it is time. And so that is the number one thing that I think our president could do is relinquish the stronghold he's got on so many parts in America by extending this state of emergency. I think the second thing he needs to do is lead. It's time. We cannot have weak leadership. And we're seeing the results of weak leadership all around the world, but we're also seeing it at home. And it is time to make sure that we have distinctive decisions made around how we're, the fact we pulled out of Afghanistan the way we did, the fact that we have had weak sanctions responses to Russia and their aggression in the Ukraine only exacerbates these circumstances because they know the United States is not responding strongly anymore. We've got to show leadership. And so those two things in my mind should be at the top of his list. And I hope he would listen.
Governor
Glenn
Youngkin, thanks so
Youngkin, the
much.
governor of Virginia, we appreciate the time. Congratulations on the win, and thank you for fighting and winning so many battles that matter so much to the people in your state and around the nation. Thanks for joining us.
Guys, thank you for having me. Have a blessed afternoon.